financial market and the economy. Talking about the world economy, not just the U.S. or El Salvador or whatever country you want to look at. United Arab Emirates, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Argentina, whatever, China, Russia. No, the world economy situation. If you haven't noticed, the economy of the world is really bad at the moment. The economic mechanics that the world global community of nations have relied on for the past 115 years or so, 110 years, has been falling apart, at the seams. And a lot of that reason is because fiat is designed to fail. Ultimately, it fails, and it is replaced by other fiats, and even non-fiat state-issued currencies that have no cap on inflation, or very little cap on inflation. Ultimately, they fail. And the reason they fail is because nobody wants to buy into a losing currency that is basically going to die off eventually, within usually 20 years or so. Right? The average lifespan of a fiat currency is around 21 years. The average lifespan of a non-fiat government-based currency is a little bit more than that, around 50 years if you're lucky. But the fact is, most fiats and most currencies around the world at this point that are state issued are fiat, and they're not backed by anything except gold reserves or other things that basically have little value in the future of finance. So what is taking over? What is going to replace that? Well, at the moment, it's very evident that Bitcoin is going to be taking over, right? And it already is. So think about it. Why are the top banks in the world buying as much crypto as they can? Why are the top financial institutions in the world hoarding and buying as much Bitcoin as they can? Why are they creating derivatives like ETFs of Bitcoin and Ethereum? Right? Because, well, A, because they can, and B, because it allows them to effectively inflate the amount of Bitcoin equivalent assets that they can use to increase the amount of money flow going into the market, because the fiat system is dying. And so they want to get as much of that liquidity from investors into the market, into a crypto equivalent asset. But of course, buy a Bitcoin ETF, if you buy a whole Bitcoin's worth, or even a fraction of it, you don't actually own that Bitcoin. You need to cash it out and convert it to Bitcoin to have that Bitcoin, underlying assets, because there is an extremely rare supply. So ETFs allow more people to buy into the market, but it's not really the market, if you know what I'm saying. If you understand how ETFs work, and ETFs being derivative products of the actual underlying asset. So Bitcoin is extremely rare. And if you don't understand that, the fact that there are 91%, what is this? Something is held for you. You can't take a joke. Who can't take a joke? I didn't block your comment. If you don't understand that it's extremely rare, and that 91% of all the Bitcoin that can ever be mined is already held by the big whales and big wallets, and basically people who have 100 or more Bitcoin in their wallets, and only 3% is actually held by retail investors or small investors, right? And the other 6% remains to be mined. It's actually just over 5%, like 5.5% remains to be mined, because we're now at like 19.8 million Bitcoins that have been mined out of the 21 million that can ever be mined. So what we're looking at is an economy, right, where things are falling apart. People are having a hard time finding jobs, despite low job unemployment numbers in a bunch of countries. Even in those countries, it is really hard to find jobs for many people. And the economy is not doing well in many countries. When you look at all the social unrest and political unrest and wars, right, and conflicts in different countries around the world. Right? No, life is not all just a gravy train like it might be for a lot of people in certain countries around the world. In the United States, in the UK, in Europe, there's a lot of people who are doing extremely well, even in places like United Arab Emirates or Israel or Saudi Arabia or Singapore or Japan. there's tons of places where there's plenty of people doing extremely well. Even in China, there's tons of people doing extremely well. Even in Russia, right? In any country, you're going to find a subset of people doing extremely well at any given time. But the majority of people are not, and they're finding it harder and harder just to make ends meet. And one of the biggest problems that we have regarding people trying to make ends meet is the fact that they simply do not have an escape valve, right? And the only escape valve that they do have, many of them are not even aware of. Even if they've heard of it, they don't know how it works. They're not comfortable with it. They're wary of it because it's not a mature asset class. It's a brand new asset class, relatively. 15 years is, for a whole asset class is brand new, even though, yes, fiat's only lasted about 20 to 30 years. Fiat currencies, cryptocurrency as a market entirely is only 15 years old. And the biggest one, is only 15 years old. The biggest and first one, only 15 and a half years old since it was invented and released onto the world. And so it's still an emerging new asset class. So people are wary, because people think, oh, it's only used by scammers or whatever. It's it's a Ponzi. It's a this. It's a that. No, Bitcoin is not a Ponzi. Bitcoin is not a scam. It's a mathematical protocol. It's decentralized, technically speaking. It's not decentralized in terms of the number of people who hold it, but it's decentralized, technically speaking. And a small number of people who do own most of it, but do own an asset that is technically capable of being decentralized and immutable and divisible and portable and all these kind of wonderful things. And what we're seeing is that there are an increasing number of people getting into the market every day because they're worried, right, about what's going to happen with the future of their finances. They're worried about not being able to make ends meet. They're worried about not being able to pay rent. They're worried about not being able to buy groceries. They're worried about not being able to buy medicine or clothes or pay for their gas, pay for their car payments, whatever it might be. And Bitcoin is that escape valve, right? Now, again, I'm not a fan of the centralization effect of all that stuff, but Bitcoin and other cryptos, right? Even Ethereum, which again, I'm not a fan of their gas schemes, and many other cryptos, I'm not a fan of their systems. They are escape valves for the average person because you can buy, whatever quantities of these coins that you can afford, and they are effectively helping you off-ramp from the traditional fiat system. Now, of course, there still are a lot of on-ramps and off-ramps that require fiat systems, so not every place accepts crypto. Therefore, you have to off-ramp sometimes your crypto into a fiat currency in order to use it to pay for things. And that is a problem for many different cryptos right now because, frankly, there are a lot of things that still can't be paid for with crypto, but there are an increasing number of things that can be. And the market value of crypto in general has been going up significantly year over the past 15 years and has been growing in terms of, the market cap, if you will. And there's a reason for it, right? What is that? Why are the richest people on earth and the richest companies on earth and the biggest governments on earth and even small governments, why are they buying so much crypto? It's because they know it's the future of finance and the future of transaction and the future of accounting and the future of value transfers, right? They understand that. And it's the future in many ways of energy, right? Consumption, because Bitcoin and other cryptos are energy plays in many ways. They're not strictly energy plays. To me, the value transaction is a bigger factor, but energy is a huge deal, right? If you control the energy of a country, or if you control the energy of yourself, right, then you have much more freedom than if you don't control the energy, right? And money is a form of energy. It's a medium of transferring, goods between people, but it's also a form of energy. Capital is a form of energy, right? You put in energy into the work, and you get the energy of the money back, which allows you to do more work, which allows you to get more energy as a form of, in money. And that is how many people are seeing the escape route, if you will, to be available to them. It's by using cryptocurrencies, by investing in cryptocurrencies, or buying cryptocurrencies and just holding them, and call that investing, or just by trading it and trying to stack sats, stack profits, stack gains of whatever crypto they're trading. There's a number of ways people are trying to stack, and get bigger stacks of crypto into their portfolio. And again, it's because, if you don't understand it already, the financial system is collapsing. We're seeing it every day. The dollar is dying quickly. Yes, it can take a long time. It can still take decades, but it is dying, and it is dying at an insane rate. 5 years ago, right, the cost of living was about half of what it is now, right? And now, the government will tell you, no, it was 28%. It's 28% more expensive now than before. Okay, even if it was 28% over 5 years, that's a lot. If you live in a society that's an industrialized nation, if you live in a G8 nation, 28% in 5 years is really bad. But if you think about it, it's actually been quite normal for the past many decades that we see those kind of rates of depreciation, of the drop in your purchasing power, right? Your dollar, your euro, your yen, your pound, your shekel, they're losing purchasing power at significant rates, right? About 5 to 7% a year on a good year. And no, it's not just because of the pandemic. Did the pandemic help? No, it didn't. But did it, did that cause the entire problem of inflation and quantitative easing and high interest rates and then low interest rates and high interest rates again, right? And, inflation is going through the roof mostly because of greed, because companies could charge more? No. And people want to tell me, no, inflation is caused because, the Fed prints more money. Yeah. Yes, inflation is caused partly because the Fed and central banks print more money, thus devaluing the amount of the dollars that are already, or the yens that are already in the market, or the euros that are in the market. But it also happens because companies exploit the advantage of the situation they're in, and they just decide to charge more for things, and they can pretend like, oh, it was a supply chain problem. Well, they fixed the supply chain problem months after it started. It didn't take many years to fix it, and so it's a ridiculous claim that inflation is only caused by the Fed printing more money. That's just not true. It's caused by the Fed printing more money and companies charging more than they should, price gouging basically, taking more money out of the hands of buyers, of retail consumers, than they need to. And the reason that they do it, which is said blatantly in many cases, is because they can. They just charge more because they can. Is that a reason to charge twice as much for your service? No, it's not. But are they doing it anyway? Yeah, they absolutely are. And what are we seeing as a result? Well, as a result, we're seeing that people are in much more of a panic mode than they've ever been before when it comes to their finances. They have much less available resources now than they had 5 years ago, right? They have much less ability to find an escape valve through the traditional routes than they had 5 years ago, because they can't get bank loans, they can't get mortgages, they can't get refinance their homes, they can't get loans for their cars or to pay for schools. Right? People are having a harder time managing their finances. And the ones that are getting into crypto and have been getting into crypto for years, but are still doing it now, even the new ones, are finding that, frankly, when you compare to the situation around the world in all the different places where hyperinflation is a thing and even high inflation is a thing, right? Crypto is more stable, actually, than a lot of traditional fiat systems, and is actually improving. And when people say, well, crypto is volatile, yeah, it's volatile. It's a new asset class. You want it to be volatile if you're a trader. You want it to be volatile, frankly, if you're an investor, because that volatility provides for the growth of the market, right? So you see constantly weak hands being shaken out, and you see constantly, strong hands buying in, right? And that's going to happen with any new asset class. But the fact is, the majority of people are looking for ways to escape the system that they're in, because the system they're in is broken. And crypto is a way out, in my opinion. It is an escape valve. It's not just my opinion. It's the opinion of many people who are jumping into the crypto ocean, right? They're looking at crypto and saying, okay, if I learn about this, the more I learn about it, the more I see this is actually an escape valve I can use to actually survive the onslaught of the devastation we're seeing in the capitalism world. Not that I'm against capitalism or anything. I'm just saying we're seeing a devastation in the so-called capitalist world, which really isn't capitalist. Crypto is actually much more capitalist than the so-called capitalist system that we live in, right? In many places where there's capitalism or so-called capitalism, because the capitalist system is actually theater, and it's not actually capitalist. It's governed by rules and regulations, and we're seeing the effects of that with all the rules and regulations destroying the capitalist system by stifling innovation and research and development. And as a result, people are looking to crypto as an escape valve. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. if you guys want catch us on the live stream on Alpha Trading's Discord, just go to alphatradinghq.com/Discord, and we start those live streams at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. See you guys. Happy trading. Bye.